Good evening. I'm Enari Darklor and welcome to Churikua.
It is well known that in Windsor, as in the rest of England, history claims too much of itself. Among legends that carry its hidden mysticism and at the same time present in its identity, calling attention of friends and strangers to this day. I have to tell you that here in Windsor, in addition to its relevance for the castle, there is a character in which the memory of the residents is known, more like a myth than a legend. However, we all believe that its existence is there, somehow announcing its passage through this world. It is interesting to know the legends and myths which are from different places in between or with different stories and variants. Windsor, being an emblematic place, and especially the castle, is surrounded by one of the most forests. This forest has someone whose origin we know and we do not know at the same time. This is the case of Herne. I have to tell you the story that my grandfather told me time ago. This story goes back a long time, taking into account that today I am someone who is eagerly awaiting retirement age to enjoy the well deserved rest that experience and gray hair demand as the years go by. Like everything else, Windsor grew with the passage of time, but back then there was even more forest than now. My grandfather used to visit the entrance to the forest on occasion when it was necessary to pass through when he was meeting friends. The proximity of the house where my great grandparents, my grandfather, and his siblings lived at that time was very close to the forest. My grandfather at that time was about 9 or 10 years old. They were playing in the streets after school until some strangers showed up, and after asking my grandfather for some money or accompanying them to where there were wealthy people to rob them, the other children decided to run away. They grabbed my grandfather and forced him to go with them. Although my grandfather refused, they beat him and threatened never to see his family again. It became dark and the road was barely visible. They were inside the forest and he, trying to buy some time, made them go in circles. When they realized it, they began to beat him until suddenly they heard a thought. They saw a humanoid figure, someone walking, and they began to curse and challenge him until they saw who was there. They could not believe their eyes. It was a man with the head of a deer and antlers. That entity growled and with a loud, fast, and rough voice shouted at them, "Get away, never to return, or you will be victims of the hunt." They were so scared that they fell to the ground, and as soon as he finished speaking, they ran away. My grandfather, fearful, stood behind a bush and said a few words in a kind tone. "You need not to be afraid. The danger is over. Now, inhabitant of these lands, return to your home." Then my grandfather jumped up and ran away. He just looked back and saw a shadow in the moonlight, a humanoid figure with the head of a deer and antlers, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Thank you, sir. What's your name?" "My name is Herne." "Thank you very much, Mr. Herne. Thank you," he said while waving his hands, turned around and ran home. You must be wondering why I am telling you this story. Recently, my grandfather had departed this world, and he asked me to leave something for him in the forest. He told me how to get there, a place I went with him a couple of times when I was younger, but this time I was alone, at night, and with just the light of the moon and a flashlight. I left my grandfather's errand on a rock. I walked away a bit and stopped dead in my tracks when I heard footsteps. I turned around and a humanoid figure with a deer's head and antlers was there, barely visible and hidden behind the bushes. In case you are wondering, my grandfather's order a deer was a deer head the size of a fist that I carved for him as a gift when I was a teenager. He asked me to leave it in the forest with a little note saying, "Thank you very much, Mr. Herne, for your intervention and help. If in the other world we meet again, it will be a pleasure." Herne is a character that, although its history and origins tend to change, there are stories that say he was a great hunter who, after saving kids, some said that Herne died, and being a hunter was alerting the king from the forest of Windsor of the dangers. Others say he was a hunter in the service of the king and was hung in an oak. Others say he's even a spirit of the forest that cares and protects it. Whatever the truth is, thanks to his intervention, my grandfather was able to escape from danger. Now that you know more about Herne, what do you think is his true origin?